Right, morning all. Monday morning. It's cold, but we're in sunny Mosport, which is in Canada, I think. Well, it's Canadian Tire Motorsport Parks. It's probably in Canada. Anyway, week 11, GT3 VRS Sprint Series. We are going to... Thank you very much for the follow. Morning. We're going to do some laps. I am completely cold. I've done one out lap to make sure that the steering wheel is set and everything is pointing in a correct line, but I'm going to go through my process for learning a racetrack and then how to analyze data to make yourself faster, what to look for in the data, how to compare yourself to the VRS data, which I do have written permission to demonstrate. So without further ado, let's crack on. Mosport's a brilliant track, a bit like Brands Hatch, I suppose, in some respects. I'm in the Ferrari because it's popular and a lot of people drive it. I drive the BMW mainly, but let's go out and see what we can do. I've loaded up the session using the VRS data from their website, so I'm on their conditions. I've got their setup loaded, so everything is comparable. I've got the data telemetry logging on, so happy days. Here we go. This is an undulating roller coaster of a ride. It's a short racetrack, and this is the Moss Hairpin, and that's the only corner name I know. So it's all uphill and down dale for anybody that is not familiar with the track. There is this one long big straight, and that leads into a couple of S's to end the lap, and then we're back to the beginning. So, you know, it's one of those short racetracks that in theory is simple, but because it's short, you need to maximise your advantage everywhere. Big, long, hanging corners, so line is going to be important. One corner leads to another, and not overdriving the entry to make sure you get good exits is also going to be important. So here we go. This is the start-finish line. Turn 1 falls away downhill. To the right, you can use all the road on the inside. Turn 2 over the hill, tricky corner, easy to end up off the road there. Leads into a big long turn 3. The apex is right the way around here. Look for the end of the curb as a decent marker for where to accelerate. Back over the roller coaster, we fall away downhill here. And you have to get on the brakes and set up for Moss. It's super easy to carry a lot of speed in here and end up on the outside on the left. And again, the run out of the corner is the most critical on the racetrack. So here we are on the main straight. You can gain so much time through Moss, but it's the sort of corner you have to build up to, in my opinion. VRS Blokey is doing a 1 minute 15 something, which is probably hauling the mail. So like I say, I haven't turned any laps around here. I'm cold, so let's just get up to speed, work out some lines and some gears. When we settle at a reasonable best effort type speed, we will then go and look at the data to see what we can see. Oh, too much inside curb. I think another consideration around here this week, I mean, it's going to be a tricky place to race big GT cars side by side, but you're going to be able to burn the tyres off the thing super easy. So there's going to be a balance to be had between being fast at the beginning and not dropping the pace off too much throughout the race. Look for the exit. Probably need to be a bit wider in the mid corner. It's tricky though because the camber falls off. It's nice and banked on the inside. The camber falls off flat in the middle of Moss. So if you get too high, wide and handsome, you'll never get the car back to the second and most crucial apex on the racetrack. Nice corner this one. Whoa, when you don't drive it like that, of course. It's where you need your traction control toggle switch. Everyone needs a good spin first thing in the morning to warm the tyres up. But But this is what practice is for, isn't it? Learning the limits. How much is too much? Right, we'll try not to take so much inside curb there. And we'll go again. Again, look for the end of the curb as a decent marker for apexing the corner. This one should be flat, at least it is for VRS guy, but you're fighting the car down the hill, hard on the brakes. You've got to sort of roll it in there smooth. You've got all the hill helping you on the way in, and it sucks you into taking more and more brakes, and then you carry that couple of Ks too much at the apex. You come up the top of that hill, the car goes light, it floats wide, you're in the dirt, the lap time's gone. So trickiest part of the racetrack for me. Right, let's try and ease it in here a bit smoother than last lap. Better. You need to bring it back to the right to open the left, or probably a bit more brakes there, because that whole sequence is dictated by the entrance. Right, anyway, second faster. Let's try and apex that corner a bit later. Yeah, turning here a bit earlier. I'm just feeling out the track, feeling where I can pinch a bit on the entrances. My perennial problem when I'm comparing myself to VRS is they carry significant amounts more entry speed than me, so this is what I am constantly trying to work on. But we'll get into that when the lap times settle out. Already 3/10 up, got a better run out the hairpin. Bit tentative in the middle, but you know, if you go out and you are spinning every 2 laps or something, you're never getting any rhythm, you're never getting your tyres warm. So I prefer to try and set a pace that I can achieve some laps in succession, just get a feel for the track. Oh, we're too deep in there. But we're still up. So we're still chopping the time down. That feels like a better line. Bit of camber on the inside there. So I've got to trust the car will stick through that bit. I think the challenge around some of this track, because the corners all flow into one another and come back on themselves, is getting the car straight to brake in a straight line a lot of the time. For the exit, you can use all this bit of runoff. Ooh, not like that though. Right, we're going to attempt to get into the 16s, then we'll stop, analyse our data. I like to do things in small bursts. I like to look at the data regularly, because you need to know what you're doing different, basically. But there's no point in diving into the data immediately if you don't, you know, if you haven't sort of put together a reasonably representative lap time. There we go, decent run through turn 1. We've done enough laps that we should know where we're going now, so let's try and put one together. Felt the car was on the edge through there. See, felt good. Time wasn't any better. We might have to settle with our 17 flat for our first hack at a data analysis. But just a bit on the data. If you're not used to using data, it's essential if you want to get faster. Everyone does it, you know, all the professional race teams use data. It's almost impossible to see the differences if you are simply watching the cars drive round from cockpit view or from chase view, whatever your chosen view is, and you'll pick up bad habits that you didn't even know you were doing. One thing I will be looking for, I cross my feet over. I start to apply brake pressure before I release the accelerator, and that's part of the reason I'm pushing the car into the corner. You can't really even see it. You certainly can't feel it. I mean, I'm not looking at my feet while I'm driving, although, you know, some laps it might appear like that. But that small act of crossing over the pedal, like for example, I'll reach 60% brake pressure before I'm fully off the gas sometimes. I would not know that, and I would never feel that, because that's my normal habit, unless I looked at the data. And that's, you know, that's one use for it, is to pick up any bad habits. But the other thing that it will show you is you have a natural driving style. You might be aggressive on turning, you might brake late, you know, whatever you do, you'll do naturally and consistently. And it's about identifying those habits. Look, we've settled at a 17. It's about identifying those habits and then comparing them to the VRS lap or the faster lap, and then working out how you can go quicker. So I'm just going to have a quick butcher's at my fast lap, and then head to the data, and we'll have a look and see if we can make it better. Here's my silly clown car. So turn 1, using all the road on turn in, probably a bit wide in the mid corner, bit of road to use on exit, using all the road in turn in for turn 2. See, that looks alright, but we won't really know whether it's alright till we look at the data. Again, using nice amount of road in turn 3. Am I flat? Let's have a listen. Happy enough. You can see the way the camber drops off at Moss, and then there's a bit of a dip as you head into the bowl. It gives you a nice slingshot out when you get it right. Nout to do up the straight. Into the, I mean, it must be amazing, this corner in the real life. Just sailing it off in here. 2 downshifts. Keep the car to the right. Probably more right than that. Compromise the exit there a bit to open up the corner that I missed by a mile. Right. So we'll expect that to be, let me just grab VRS. Righty, here we go. We'll expect that to be tardy, certainly in the final corner. Right, so Blokey's done a 15.3. So some work to do, but that is the whole point of the stream, isn't it? Okay, turn 1, here we go. Let's start getting into the specifics. There's probably many ways to analyse this data. I do it thusly. I look at the sector. I mean, we can see 1.7 to find. Okay, we're just getting up to speed. So 1 3/4 tenths in turn 1. Let's examine. He's the blue line. I am the dotted purpley, pinky, reddy, whatever colour that is line. So he's turning in slightly earlier, using slightly more of the road. So, you know, I'm roughly doing the right thing, but here we start seeing the differences. So it's 5 kilometres. This is the Delta line for anyone not familiar with it, and it shows the difference. Where there is a gap, it means I am slower. You'll see this appear on the Formula 1 coverage now. They've started using this. So I look to this line to see where my deficit is, and, you know, like 5 k's an hour. And then I go look and find out why. So it's going to be the run off the final turn, in part because we're right at the start finish line. But as we start the turn in, this is where we'll probably see a constant with my data. So we need to find out what the difference is. Down here are the three things that you have within your control: the the throttle, then the brake, then the steering angle. You'll consistently see, and probably unless you're very close to their pace, you'll see this in your own data, they work the wheel a lot. All these little backwards and forwards movements, it's because the car's nearer the limit. It's sort of, I don't know whether this would play out in real life, probably not, but we're trying to go fast in sim. Having the car on the edge in iRacing seems to require this rocking backwards and forwards of the wheel, this sort of constant catching of the car as it goes into the corners. Again, you don't see it a huge amount in real life, but anyway, let's get into the data analysis. I've braked, he hasn't, so straight away this is why this is happening. He's been more decisive coming off the throttle, but felt the need to have this little blip to catch the race car in the corner. I had a quick look through the data, and this guy is very linear with his throttle. He's on and off the gas. We'll keep an eye on my crossover, and when he goes back to the throttle, I've gone back on the throttle earlier, he's waited but been much more decisive. So by itself, we have got the reason why I am slower in this corner, but we haven't really built up a picture of what's happening. So we need to bank this information. In this particular case, I lose a bit on the corner entry, and it's because I've braked. He's more linear with the throttle. So let's bank that, and we'll move on to turn 2. Down the hill, again, doesn't look a massive amount different. He's turned in a fraction earlier, maybe used a bit more corner, a bit more road in the middle of the corner, and here we go. Already we start seeing a pattern appear, and this is what you're looking for in your data. You need a pattern of your driving habits, and you need to compare them to the other guy's driving habits. And as we work through this, and as the times start to come down, you will see the data get closer together. I'm not looking to parrot fashion drive the car the way he does. We all have our own style. You want to keep your own style, but you want to try and improve by, pinching the good bits that these guys are doing. So here we go. I am lifting and braking before he is. The crossover's not too, see, look, no, here we go. By the time I get to 0 throttle, I'm only at 20% brake, but I'm still crossing my feet over. And this is where this starts. So this is why you need all of these things to identify what's going on. You can't just look at the braking point. You need to find out what's going on. So we can see as the actual corner starts, as the scary big downhill roller coaster turn 2 starts, this is where he's got more confidence to the tune of 10 kilometers an hour. And we then need to go and identify the reason. So in this case, I've braked a really similar amount, but earlier. He's not got this problem crossing his feet over. That's something I need to work on. But you see, I mean, there's this double sort of dip here. So over, had a brake, let the car roll off probably as it goes light over the crest. Another quick brake, probably just to help it turn, keep it on line. And then this 2-stage throttle application. You see this a lot with these guys. They build up to 3/4, 80% throttle almost instantly, allow the weight to transfer and for the car to settle momentarily, fractionally momentarily, and then they can go back on the throttle. And we can see here I've had a lift. But the other interesting part of this is this part of the steering. As he's gone over the crest, this braking application has made the car loose. He's hit the brakes hard enough and at the right time that as he's rolled off the brake, he's having to come off the steering. And if I play this through at half speed, and this stuff does get easier. If you're new to data analysis, you need to dive in and have a go and ask questions. And, the more you look at it, the more you start to pick out your habits and what's making the difference. I've been looking at this stuff for years now, so it's a bit easier for me. But let's just watch the steering wheel and the brake and the gas application as he drops over the hill here. So a little bit of brake, and he's having to catch the car. Did you see it? Go back you come. Just as it goes over the hill, it's just unsettling the rear, and that's allowing him to carry more speed in the mid part of the corner. And this is what I mean about the steering trace. The car is more on the edge. It's dancing more on the edge of its grip, which is allowing for the speed. Knowing that, being able to do anything about it are different things. So again, we have to pick out the salient points. Well, thank you very much. Let's hope it continues to be more interesting than Breakfast TV. We can pick out the salient points, but we need to work within our means. This guy might be 7-8K. The chances are I'm not going to be able to exactly replicate what he's doing, but I'm looking to get closer. So in this corner, I know I need to carry more entry speed. So we'll bank that, we move on. Oh, that scared the bejesus out of me. I must turn that down. Thank you very much for the follow. Right, okay, here we go. So the tricky, long, hanging, like late apex, turn 3. We're seeing a similar pattern. The time in this particular case, because it's a longer piece of racetrack, is bigger. Morning, Paul. How's tricks, fella? But we're seeing that the data is reasonably similar. So we need to identify what's going on. I've built more peak brake pressure, and I've lifted slightly late. And again, look, I'm looking for my own habits, as we discussed earlier. If we go to where he brakes, he's crossing over his brake and his accelerator to the tune of 15%. Wouldn't worry too much about that. Me, I'm at 50%. It's bad, isn't it? It's a habit. It's a habit I've gotten into through a period of time of not looking at the data, and it's now a habit that is taking a lot of conscious effort to brake. And this is the problem for me with not examining your data regularly. If you continue to drive and you have got bad habits that are causing you problems that you might not even be aware of, the longer that you do that, the harder and the more conscious and dedicated practice working on just your stupid feet, in my case, it's going to take to undo those habits. And that's before you work on any line or anything. But anyway, so apart from the on throttle here, I got on the throttle a fair bit earlier, but I'm carrying less speed into the corner. In terms of unpicking this is a harder thing to unpick than the more linear, I'm losing speed because I'm braking earlier, he's got the car looser. That's an easier thing to understand and to try and work on. This is a more complex part of the racetrack, and you have to work on one thing at a time. You can't go around the whole lap and go, right, I need to sort out turn 1 and I need to think about the exit, and then I need to work out the entry to turn 2. It's too much for the brain box. You'll end up doing a mess. So I'm going to go through the lap, identify the worst areas and the biggest problem areas, and try and work on that. So for now, this might come down just through repetition. So I'm not going to worry too much about this. This is into the Moss hairpin. So over the hill, the big braking zone, and there is a lot of difference here, and seemingly not a lot of difference in the data. So again, we're building up habits. I brake earlier. I'm crossing over my feet. So this is a habit of mine. He is also crossing over his feet, but much less. So it's probably not best practice to be accelerating when you want to brake. Once again, the entry is the problem, and this all comes down, you identify this deficit in the entry, and because it's a longer piece of road, the graph is closer together, but it's 15 kilometers an hour as I drop over the hill here, and it seems daft that this small amount of difference makes the difference, but it has done. And I think part of the problem for me is because I cross my feet over, I feel I have to brake earlier. So I need to work on that when I go back out. The middle and off of Moss, there's no point in worrying about at the moment because the entry's not right. So again, it's looking at the data and identifying the key areas to work on. If I can get the entry and this speed down, even if I can get that down to 10 k's an hour, that will be progress. I'll be a couple of tenths closer. The exit will end up sorting itself out once the entry's right, so I'm not going to worry about that. As always, I'm good up the straights, aren't we all? Right, and the final part of the lap, again, it's a long part of the lap, so it's going to take a bit of unpicking and it looks a mess, but you can break it down. So let's have a butcher's here. Again, it's 15 k's, so we're building up a picture. The VRS driver is more used to sending the car off into the corner that bit quicker. That is a direct result of him doing all of this steering and having to catch the car, and the car's more on the edge. As I say, as he's tipping into the corners, the car the back wants to come round, so he's just having to catch the car. This is what we're all looking to do. We're all looking to take the car nearer the limit, but you have to do that in stages because you'll just be backwards in a hedge. So once again, let's look at the traits, and your traits will be different. What my problem is might not be your problem. You might brake too late rather than too early, and your line will be above his into the corners and then dip down in the middle of the turn, and you'll be chasing it off the corner. Keep an eye on the steering angles. If they're massively different, you could be scrubbing the car. You can take the car past the scrub angle of the tyres quite easily, and that's to do with how you brake and stuff. But so let's have a look here. I'm braking more. I've come off the brakes come off the accelerator in the same place, but we can see I've braked 50% and I'm crossing over my feet again. He's braked 20%, held the pressure on more, and again, look, it's more linear, more definite with the pedal. So there's a lot to unpick to get this 1.7 down, but all I'm going to go and work on at the moment is my entry speed and not crossing my feet over. I'm not going to worry. I'm basically driving the same line as him. We can see that. We know I missed the last corner, but I'm basically driving the same line as him. So as to not complicate things for myself, I am simply going to head out and try to not cross my feet over and just carry a fraction more corner speed in, and we'll see what that does to the lap time. And you know, this is where it becomes a sort of mental battle. Like, if you truly want to go faster, you have to dedicate some work to it. Basically, you've got to work at it. If you're just going to go out on track and you just drive around, you're going to get the same result. I mean, it sounds obvious, but I think sometimes it needs pointing out. You have to methodically work at changing your habits. As we can see, I've got a habit of carrying less corner speed in and I'm crossing my feet over. That's a habit that appears in any car I drive, whether it's the F3 or the Lotus 79, the V8 supercar. It's what I do with my body. So it's not car specific, it's me specific. You'll find your own traits, and unpicking those requires a lot of conscious work. You have to drive round. I mean, I'm now driving around thinking lift off before brake, lift off before brake. I can't be doing that in a race because you need all of your attention to all of the stuff that's going on. The car's either side of you, and my telemetry's disappeared. Hold on, let's try and get the telemetry back. Stupid thing. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it was. Oh, so many things open. Huzzah. This is why the dedicated practice regime, and I think this is where people miss out. You know, time's precious. It's a hobby, but if you have designs of improving, you know, if you harbour dreams of going quicker and getting up the iRacing rankings, getting into the higher splits, cleaner racing, all this work has to be done outside of racing, because when you race, you revert to your unconscious state. It being there's so much going on that while you're driving, you'll go back into whatever your bad habits are. If I jumped, I could spend 2 hours now thinking every time I get to a braking zone, going, right, lift off before braking. If I jumped straight back into a race, I'd go straight back to crossing my feet over, because that's what would happen in the heat of battle, when I'm preoccupied with dealing with other cars on the track. So I think that's why, if you want to go faster, you have to set yourself out a dedicated series of sessions throughout the week to work. Oh, don't brake, he's not braking through that. To work on consciously improving, which means I have to turn my brain on and tell myself what I'm trying to do here, which is carry a bit more corner speed and not cross my feet over. So lift, brake. And what your issue is will be different, but you've got to identify that area before you can work on it. So you guys have got the data trace. You will be able to tell me if I am managing to achieve my objective. And I think the mental side of it's worth talking about as well, because I'm now no longer focusing on my line so much. I'm focusing on my feet, and you can seemingly take a step backwards when you're trying to improve, and I think that's normal. You've got to take yourself out of your regular comfort zone, and you've got to learn a new thing. Well, you're not going to put it together instantly. That just wouldn't make any sense. So you have to sort of accept that until you've locked in good habits, you will be, you'll be floundering about a bit. I call them puzzle pieces, and you're just looking to find the next piece of your own puzzle to improve your lap times. So look, we're in the green here. As I say, I'm making a conscious effort not to cross my feet over, and I'm doing nothing else differently. 2 tenths up, nearly 3 tenths up, just from identifying that one area. That's before we get into the minutiae of what corners are my biggest problems and all of that sort of stuff. Just try and keep the car over. Needed a bit more brakes there. Gonna have to take another downshift. See, we're still up, and the last sector was horrible. That's 1/4 of a second. We'll take that. And I need enough repetition that starts to become my habit. And you know that you've got your habits right. I'm still crossing a little, am I? Okay, I will work on it. It's a work in progress. You'll only know that you've truly broken your habit, changed what you do naturally to a better habit, when you record telemetry of your race, and in the heat of battle, like at the beginning of races and stuff, if you can look back over the data and you're doing your new thing, that's happy days. You've banked it. You've undone your old habits. Like any of you that play golf or tennis or anything like that, trying to undo a service motion or your driver swing or something, it's not easy. It takes a lot of dedicated practice. Oh look, that's a better line. See, we're a half a second quicker already, and we haven't actually done any work on the line. We're simply trying to carry a bit more speed into the corner. Oh, hello. And not cross our feet over. Right, if this lap's green, we'll stop, have a quick butchers, go back to the data. You don't need to pound round forever. And, you know, I think it's like anything. I've been examining data and using it to try and go quicker for quite a while. Like anything, you get better at something the more you do it. So if you want to dive into using data analysis and changing your practice routine to improve your level, if you don't manage to go out and within 3 or 4 laps put it together, just need to stick at it. I didn't when I started. I've been driving on iRacing for over 8 years now. Right, there we go. So we did a 16.49 and a 16.55. So we'll take that. We'll try and make the keyboard work. Okay. Be a fine old time to run out of batteries, wouldn't it? Right, let's go back to the data. See if we can get this to load. So we found half a second. And all we're looking for is confirmation that we're heading in the right direction, because then I can try and do more of that and I can start working on the specifics of the corners. Yeah, this thing always takes a while to upload. Someone's told me about the setting to change the upload speed, and I'm playing around with it to try and find the right upload speed without it compromising performance. There we go, 16.49. Right, so let's get into it. So we've taken a couple of hundredths off turn 1. We're still not getting off the final corner as well, because until we start the turn in, but this phase is better. This was what, 5Ks, something like that. So this line is coming down, and what you should see is the data get closer together. Now I'm carrying more minimum speed than him through the corner, and he gains a bit on the exit. But like I say, I'm not looking to parrot fashion do exactly what he does. I'm using VRS's data as a guide of what's possible. People may well be able to go faster than this. That's fine, but this is my reference lap to chase. So in this instance, I have lifted off. We've got exactly the same steering angle at the point. I'm not braking anymore, which is, I was braking what, 12% or something, and this was 5Ks. So by not braking, I've brought this down. There's still a bit of time to find, but I think largely that's coming off the final corner. So again, doing that okay through turn 1. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. Moving on. Right, again, this was 15Ks, wasn't it? So we're approaching half, and here we go. We are better. Look, the crossover's much better. That was what, 40% or whatever it was on the previous one. I'm lifting off in the right place. He's allowing the car to roll in. He's braking 10% less. I'm maybe a skosh wide here. Maybe this is the reason, but this is much more similar. As you can see, this build up of the throttle, the weight on the exit, he's faster and he's doing it a bit better. And look, there's nearly 6Ks on the exit, 8Ks on the entrance. My steering is still smooth. It's very smooth actually. So I'm still less near the edge than he is, but we know this because I'm not going as quickly. But in terms of moving in the right direction, that's good. I'm creeping up on it. So let's go to this corner. Again, this is much better. So one act, all of this data that we unpicked. And one thing that I was conscious of when I went back out on the racetrack, which was not crossing my feet over, has resulted in me going half a second quicker. I haven't looked at the line. I haven't analysed any of the corners specifically. Here we go back to a stop. This is the next phase of my own personal development, and as I say, yours will be different. But when I'm in a straight line and when I've got a bit of brain power thinking time, I can not cross my feet over. As Paul said, in the corner where I'm fighting the car off the downhill corner and the setup is tricky, there's a lot going on. This is where I'm back to 40% brake by the time, and here we see I'm braking early and the gap is still large. So that confirms to me that this is causing me a problem, more so than the line I'm driving, more so than my steering, all of that sort of stuff. It's this one issue with me crossing my feet over. And this is a good demonstration of why it will go straight back to doing this in a racing situation. I need to continually tell myself when I'm practicing to not cross my feet over to the point where I am seeing it not happen in my data, and then this should be much closer on every turn in. And then I need to validate that I've done enough dedicated, conscious, brain on thinking, feet John, every time I hit the brakes, until I can record data in a race when everything's happening around you and it's just natural. And if you go straight back to your old habits, you need to put in more practice, because you'll be undoing the good work. You can do loads of good work in practice. If you then jump on for an evening and do 3 races, you're straight back to square one. You've got to build all of that up again. Obviously there is a time investment, and as I say, this is something, if you truly want to get faster, this is what needs to happen. If you just want to sit down and race and you're happy with whatever your level is, so be it. But if you truly want to change where you are in the iRacing pecking order, then it's the nut behind the wheel. It's not a setup problem. It's always what you're doing with the controls problem. So there we go. We've validated in the first 2 corners that if I can get my crossover right, my entry speed is faster. That sorts out the exit. We can see the exit's not right, but then the entry's not right, so we can't worry about that for the time being. Right, again, this was half a second, so I've taken some time off in some of the critical areas. So again, let's have a look. It's still too much speed on the entry, and let's have a look. The crossover's better here, but I'm being a bit of a wuss on the brakes. Fair enough, it's a tricky corner. I can see he's holding the brake. So this is, in this particular instance, I am trying to extrapolate from his data exactly what to do, and what I need to do is brake a fraction later and hold the brake a bit longer, because it goes into that uphill face. The car will decelerate quicker. So we'll bank that. As always, good up the straight into the last part of the lap, and whilst my data is not quite as linear, the time is massively better. This was half a second, so I've gained the most time here just by being more online through this final corner, and the data trace is much better. Again, I'm not worried too much about this. I'm going to work on into Moss, and I'm going to work on, after turn 2, this long tricky corner. So I'm going to work on this middle sector of the lap next. And again, if I can come back to the data having come off turn 2, and where the car is all sliding and out of shape and you've got to get it back across the road, if I can get this better and brake later into Moss, there's a bit more time to be had. So let's go see what we can do. And the telemetry's back. Happy days. Right. So if anyone's got any questions or anything, fire away. I can probably read and drive and waffle, but it might result in ending up in a hedge. Just get the tyres warm. It's definitely time to be had in that moss. So again, I'm not worrying about the rest of the track. If I drive it the same, fine. If I drive it worse, so be it. You know, ideally I don't want to go backwards, but I'm... Whoa, hello. Seems we need to watch that on cold tyres. Don't hit the fence, don't hit the fence. Oh, that's made the telemetry look like a mess. Right, okay. Anyway, onwards. Too much on the inside. Still up a tenth though. Felt better. Yeah, the time's coming down a bit. The reason I'm using VRS, Paul, is because of the time to chase. There are bits I like on both VRS and iSpeed, but the problem with iSpeed is you need to be on the same track at the same time with a faster driver to know that the data was of any use. Morning, Seymour. Yeah, thank you. Backwards. At least with VRS, I've got the time to chase, and I can launch the session, certainly a test session, using exactly their data. So I know I'm comparing like with like. That's a tyre killer through there. Try and be more definite on the throttle. Morning, thank you for the follow. See, when I don't cross my feet over into that corner, which I don't think I did on that lap, I was too early at the apex. So that's a good sign. Let's see what we can do down here. Felt better. Can we get it turned and off the corner? Lost a bit of time coming off the corner, but it felt better on the way in. You got to creep up on this stuff. You can't, you know, like, it's just a fact. You can't watch a VRS lap and if you're 2 seconds off, just go find that time by watching. It's such an innate feeling thing through your hands and your feet, and how you're spotting the turns, and you know, you have to incrementally edge yourself towards faster lap times, and this is where examining your habits comes into play. Okay, yeah, got the car a bit looser over the brow there, needed a bit more steering angle, gained a bit. Again, car a bit looser at the rear. We're in the green. This is all good. Alright. My nemesis turn. Oh, I'm a bit wide on the way down the hill. We're still up, but that was messy. So yeah, I think if you're committed to personal improvement, doing the 12-month VRS thing, and I am in no way affiliated to these people. I pay like everybody else, but it's a pretty good deal. You get 12 months for the price of 10 or something along those lines, and it gives you consistent data from one driver to compare yourself against. Right, let's try and put together the bits that we've not been doing well. So quick stab over the hill. Bit tentative. Car's looser in there, it's coming better. And I think the advantages of edging up on it, it's when you watch any top guys or in any class of racing, they're nearer the limit of the car and the tyres, so they're soaring away at the wheel, catching the car more in and off of the corners. That's something that we can all learn, but we have to learn in tiny increments, just edging your own personal comfort level. You know, we've all got a level of comfort, and if you look at your steering trace and it's really smooth, it's because the car's, you know, you've left too much margin. The car's too safe. I think sometimes to change that requires you to push the boundaries of what you know is possible, which results in crashing, and that gets frustrating. But you know, you sort of have to be able to have the mental fortitude to look past that and say, you know, I know the car can be faster on the entry, and I know that means it's going to be more lively in my hands, and I've just got to keep doing it until I find the right combination of brake pressure and steering angle and entry speed and line to be able to get round a few laps at your new comfort level. And then you do enough laps that comfort level becomes your comfort level. That's just normal. And then you go to work again. You start off trying to spend a few sessions with the car being slightly uncomfortable in your hands, slightly further on the edge. And things to look for in the VRS data, they stab the accelerator, they stab the brake to get the car to rotate. So like they'll approach a corner like this, they'll get on the brake, and then there'll just be a little extra stab of the pedal as they start turning the wheel, and it just unloads the weight of the car to the point where the front starts pointing towards the corner slightly more than the rear. It's sliding, but it's not out of control. It's sliding on the slip angle of the tyres. And that's sort of the holy grail to getting race cars to turn. What the VRS guys and what the faster guys do is they do this more efficiently, and they do it on command. But if you just go out there and drive round, funnily enough, you're going to drive round at the same speed you always drive round. Right, I'm going to try and put one together here because we are not going any faster. So I'm going to try and accelerate a fraction harder and get the car to just be a little looser on corner exit. And you start to see my hands have to move more as I'm introducing more throttle more aggressively. It's unsettling the car. There's a happy medium to be found here. whatever I was doing earlier through there is working better than at the moment. And this is, you know, this is where it gets hard when you're ploughing round, you're spending your free time working on stuff and you're not going any quicker. The temptation is just to, you know, go back to your old habits, but it takes a lot of time to lock in new, better habits. Right, I'll have one more go and then I'll get a new set of boots. I maybe murdered the tyres with my spin early on. Oh, that was a better rhythm. Yeah, just had a wobble in the middle of the corner. Lost the time we gained through turn 2. Better. Possibly too much entry speed, a bit skosh out of control here. Yeah. But you see, it's not resulting in better lap times, but I'm exploring the limits. And without exploring the limits, I'm never going to change my habits or my lap time. I'm going to get a new set of boots. I suppose this sort of ties into the conversation about setup. I've loaded the VRS set. It may be that we're at a stage. He's doing what, a 15.3. I'm about a second off. It's a short track though, but we may be at a stage where the car is not suited to my preferred sort of balance and style. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms when it comes into modifying setups. But let's just see what we can do with a fresh set of tyres. If I can't find any time, I think I'll go and grab a different car and see what we can do in maybe my preferred BMW. Front's not ready for that yet. Alright, I think the change of rears has helped, so there's a bit of time. We can see I've found the big chunks, basically. With this setup combination, I'm clearly somewhere near my sort of natural limit. Right, let's do one. Oh, lost a bit off the corner. We're 3/10 up though. Oh, push wide on the exit. Damn shame. And this is the thing about pushing the boundaries, isn't it? The time's there, but I'm near enough to my limit that it's not comfortable, and I need to keep accepting that the time is there and just working at driving at a pace that's not happy. You know, I'm not, it's not my comfortable. I wouldn't want to race at this pace, but I've got the ability to make the car go faster. I now have to do enough of that it becomes a comfort level I can accept and I can deal with throughout the lap. So we've got the start of the lap much better, and it's just sliding a bit into turn 3. I'm letting off the pressure as I come up the ramp into Moss. It's just not turning. See, I'd like a little more on throttle turning there, and I can probably live with the car being a bit looser. The whole setup thing is a complicated subject. Good morning. Nice to have you along. Get the car back to the right. See, I can feel, it's obviously impossible to show you, but I can feel that the car is nearer the limit. I'm out of my comfort zone, and that's the area I need to operate at in order to put the lap together. And like I say, it's easy to sort of go back in your shell, if you like, because you plough around and you're going no faster. But you've got to find the next stage of development. So we're still a 10th up. Let's try and keep that through Moss. Be brave. Don't cross your feet over. Release the pressure as you're going up the hill. Get it turned. Better. Perseverance. And it becomes more comfortable. I'm getting happier at this level of ability. Oh, it's going to be faster, but just barely. But it may well be faster in different places. Again, putting pieces of that puzzle together. It's wide in the mid corner. And then you need to play around with, can I roll off the brake slightly sooner? Am I holding the brake too long? Is that actually having a negative effect on me slowing down? If I give the car more grip backed from the tyres, does that help? Right, I'm going to have a look at that 464 because I have a feeling it will be faster in different places. Right, let's have a quick butchers. I like Chase View for reviewing my laps personally because I can see if I'm using all the road on turning, like there. I just think you know what the car's like from cockpit view. There you go. See, I'm using all the road on turning there. I think I can get on the power sooner there. I think there's more grip in the mid corner. But I'm sure we all know the basics. mostly, as a rule, you want to be using all of the road. It just feels slow. I think if I can carry more speed into the middle of that, I can be more on the brakes as I turn the car, which will help it turn, help slingshot me off the corner. Yeah, as I say, we all know that most of the time you want to be using all of the road on entry. You're picking the line of least resistance, trying to find the perfect apex. See, I could probably bring the car back a bit more to the right in that first sequence, and then I'm carrying a bit too much speed into that last corner. But let's go fly a kite, but that's because Mary Poppins was on yesterday. Let's have a butcher's at this. Okay. Okay, do that then. What are we driving? This thing. So I don't know how far you guys are off the ultimate pace mainly, but I'm getting I'm 1.1 seconds off, albeit round a short lap. I'm getting somewhere near my normal sort of pace off this VRS dude. Right, so turn one, much better. Again, I'm still losing a bit out of the final corner. I'm actually faster. Here we start to see a bit of a different trait through the corner. It's made 3/4 of a tenth difference. I'm actually faster at the mid corner, and we cross over in slightly different places. Again, this is down to, you don't have to drive the car exactly the same as VRS guy. He's more definite on the exit because he slowed it down a bit more, but this I'm happy with, not worried about this. Heading into turn two, let's check the gap. See, we're bringing down the speed difference here. Again, because I get out of turn one slightly slower, there's a bit of a deficit on the way in. This is the area we want to be concentrating on. This started off as 15 odd kilometers an hour. We've taken 10 k's an hour off in where are we? In an hour. So happy enough. And as you can see, the data is becoming much more similar. Let's check to see. Look, here we go. I am now not crossing over my feet. The data is becoming much more similar. He's still got this very distinctive motion in the middle of the corner. And now I am somewhere near, I can start looking into exactly what the differences are and trying to emulate what he's doing. We're basically lifting in the same place. He's having a small stab of the brake, but just a quick stab, trailing down to hold some brake pressure on the front of the car, and then has this second stab to get it to turn. I need to try and make the car looser through the corner. I need to try and hang the tail out over the ridge, and that will help it turn. And it's from this point here, as he starts to catch the slide, that he gains the speed, and he carries that speed all the way through and off the corner. So that's my mission. But again, it's 1.5 tenths. It's not the biggest problem I've got round the lap. Let's check here. We're looking to see, it's better, isn't it? It's not a lot better, but I'm starting to bring the brake. I'm starting to get the throttle off before I get fully on the brakes. And we're a bit different here. Where's the speed? It's still quite a lot. It's more than I'd like. So this is still, and getting into this corner is still tricky for me. I'm braking too much. Here's how I sort of assess this bit. You can see here I'm 11 k's down. So where's that 11 k's coming from? It's this here. We're coming off the gas in exactly the same place. This little difference in me building 60% pressure and him going from 40 up to 55, the trail off is very similar for both of us, but this little bit of overslowing the car, this little section here, is where this starts. And this is where a bit of experience with the data helps, but you'll never get the experience if you don't start. But you know, it seems innocuous, this little difference, but it's messing up the whole exit for me. I've felt the need to get on the gas earlier. Again, we can see if we look at the steering, he's cranking the steering lock into it, and then the car slides on throttle, and it probably coincides exactly with this extra build up. Yeah, so just as he asks for the power. So, you know, this is little bits of evidence that he's taken a bit more corner speed in, and the car is nearer the limit on the exit. So I still need to work on the entrance, just coming more confident on the brakes. Into Moss, we know Moss is the problem, but when you compare it to the initial data trace, you can see things are going in the right direction. He's steering more, but our steering traces are very similar. I've got this weird sort of, you know, mountain range going on. He has to a certain degree, but we're much more similar. I'm not crossing over my feet down here, which is good, but we see the same pattern. Looking for patterns, we see the same pattern appearing. There is a difference in speed on the way in, and there is this extra bit of braking. He's building the braking slightly slower and holding more of the brake into and through the corner. And I'm just going to play it back at half speed. I'm interested in this last turning bit because I'm having a problem getting the car turned. He's got more lock on, but I'm just wondering if the car slides. So I'm just going to play that through, watching the steering angle. So he's smoother on the brake pedal, and here we go. Yeah, just committing to the lock and the accelerator. And it's these minute, seemingly innocuous differences that are making the difference in lap time. You take 0.3 of a second through there, wouldn't you? And it's partly down to my entry speed, but it's partly down to this little, you know, he has this little blip of the throttle to set the car up and then commits to the gas. So I need to try that. It might result in me being in the wall. And through the final corner, still losing a bit. And look, I thought I'm getting off the final corner badly because we can see that in sector 1 as I'm approaching turn 1. Again, there's a lot to unpick through here. It's getting closer, so you know, I'm not too worried about anything apart from this bit here. As we turn into the final corner, so I'm braking more, and it's probably because I'm a bit wider. So I need to give up a bit. That we can see, work backwards if you need to. We see this difference here. I'm 7 k's faster coming through the left-hander. That's pushed me wide, but I'm losing double and more through the final corner. So if I can give up a bit through this turn and open this turn up, there should be a couple of tenths there. So in theory, I should be able to knock a few tenths off my lap. But we all know that the theory and the practice. But let's go have a go. So if anyone uses data, thank you very much for the follow, appreciate it. If anyone uses data and has any questions about the way I go through it, or you know, any habits or anything they want to have an ask about, I'll do my best. Right, let's go. Let's warm our tyres up this time. I think I'm a bit wide there. I think that patch of tarmac on the middle of the track is probably a bit more grippy. So let's see what we can do. there we go, even on our outlap, just a bit more steering lock and my timer is coming down. So, good. It's sort of, you know, it helps lock in that that's the right thing to do. Whether I can do it at speed and into here, I'll be a bit careful on my outlap. I know I need to get the car back this side, carry a little less speed through here to get the car set up more for that corner. Yeah, okay. Work in progress. Right, let's go. Let's have at it. Whoa. Touch loose in the middle of the corner. Wide over the hill. Right, more lock and more throttle. Didn't have the best entry, but the car will accept more lock than my natural comfort level was telling me. And again, you might never try this stuff if you don't go through the data to find out what the differences are. Right, so we know up here I need to give a bit in this corner, keep the car to the left, open this one up. Touch wide. Rome wasn't built in a day and all that. Any other phrases you care to use? Right, let's go. Decent turn one. Bit wide over the hill. Car turned nicely on the brakes there. I don't know if you could see that from the picture, but just the right amount of brake pressure put the car into yaw at just the right point. Feels so slow through the middle of there. See, this is where the upshot of this, if I reach a level that I can't go beyond, to me the car, I could feel like if the car rotated a bit better on throttle into Moss, I'd be I'd be able to do more on the exit. So that's where you have to start delving into the setup. I can make a simple diff change to see if that will help. It may well unsettle the car in other places. I think I actually went faster there, didn't I? By a fraction. But I think what we're seeing is from the start where my comfort level was, where are we? 17s. I'm now comfortably doing mid-16s. And the validation of whether I've done enough practice comes, comes in the race. If I can do the lap times, not cross my feet over, you know. And it's like, it can be a laborious process. I try and do my practice in reasonably small chunks. I think you reach a saturation point where you've done so much conscious trying to go faster and stuff. You're better off driving something else for a while or doing something else for a while and just letting it absorb. Right, let's try and do one. Oh yeah, felt nice from the apex off, 2/10 up, the dreaded Moss. Live with it. There we go. It was uncomfortable, but it was faster. I now need to try and repeat that line and make it normal. Make it normal, comfortable. That's a quarter of a second up. Can we get it back? Yep. Was that nearly 3/10? 16.1. We're getting there. Let's have a look at that. Not because we crashed. Not for that reason. Right. Let's see if we can visually spot any... Oh, did I make it go slow-mo? Any difference? I have to use the keyboard because I've put this... this doodad is right in the way of the controls, which I didn't think through very well. Right, so we've gone 16.4.6, of which we've done a few, to 16.1. That's a decent chunk. We'll take that. So let's have a look. Still using all the road on turn-in. That looked better. Car was less upset. Using all the road on the exit. Gone to my skippy line through there. I lost a bit on the way in, but gained some on the way out. Yeah, clipped the inside nice. Was able to release the car off the corner. Dropping it over the hill. Still feel there's time to be had in Moss. I'm wondering if we go back here, look, you can just see as I go in, it upsets itself on the curb. It just has a bobble as it goes over the curb. I'm wondering, oh, what have we done? Oh, probably broken it. I'm wondering if that's the if that's just what's unsettling me. And again, you're not going to see that from the data. You're only going to see that from, let's zoom around there. Right, watch the car hit the curb. Yeah, it just has a bobble. So I'm wondering if I turn in a fraction wider, which is why it's good to use all the tools you've got available. But it was better through there and I gained on the exit, so, you know, I'll take it. And then once you've worked out and, you know, gained some time, it's then a case of trying to settle in. I was definitely wide there. I still think I'm probably a bit too fast in that left-hander. But let's not be too harsh, because that was definitely better. Once you've worked out all of these things, it's then a case of trying to settle in and do a race run at your new pace. And, you know, let's have a refresh, make sure it loads. And, you know, maybe you won't be able to match your fastest time, but if you can bring your average lap time down at all, makes a lot of difference by the end of a 40-minute race. 16.1. Where did we start? Let's have a look at the improvement. So we started with a 17 flat. So we're 9/10 faster. 8/10 faster. And we're driving, you know, a much better, more consistent line. Yeah, I'm still giving up a bit on the way in. I do turn one differently, but the time's coming down. So again, I'm not overly worried about the fact that this is different. Pick your battles. Here we go, turn 2, way better. Again, I've changed my line slightly. I'm doing my skippy line, and look, here we go. I'm starting my steering's still smooth. I'm not quite as on the edge. I'm not carrying as much speed off the turn. the deficit is 2 k's an hour now. 2 k's an hour. This is much better. So whereas he's feeling the need to take the stab of brakes, for me, letting the car flow over the hill is working better. I'm braking a bit more than him. I'm slowing it down a bit more. You know, there's work to be done, but this is much better. These two sectors. Turn 3, we're down into the single tenths or tens of tenths. Anyway, we're doing better. So our 15 k's has come down to 8. It's still an area that I need to work on, but this is better. Let's check whether I'm crossing over. Still crossing over a bit, but much more similar to him. So now I've got these sectors down to this sort of thing. This is where I can start seeing, I can see this is still different to the way he builds the pressure into here, and I think we'll see the same into Moss as well. So this is where I can start drilling down into the specific techniques for certain corners. But again, this is much better. Still losing in Moss, so still being a wuss on the brakes, not crossing my brakes over. This is much better, but I'm just flat out not carrying enough speed in, and it's making quite a difference. And I do wonder if the little bobble, where's the curb, about there, I do wonder if me lifting off early is making me overslow the car, which means I'm hitting this inside curb, and it's probably what's pushing me wide. So always a problem area, still a problem area, an area that trickiest part of the racetrack, and I need to work on. And here we go to the final corner, and much better. Let's have a butcher's. So yeah, I was a bit wide turning in. We could see that from the chase cam. Let's have a look at turning through the left-hander. Much better. Absolutely on a par with this guy. The line is much better. And then it's just from the middle off that I'm losing. And it's this hesitation that's just costing me. So yeah, the final corner is an area to work on, and the Moss is an area to work on. But how much better is that in an hour and a half? We found nearly 9/10 of a second, and we've halved our deficit to him, and we're undoing many of our bad habits. The trick is to be able to turn the data on, and your first lap out the box next time, those bad habits are gone, eradicated. But that's not the work of a moment. So I'm going to go and do a few more laps around Moss and around the whole track, obviously, but working on Moss and working on the final turn to see if I can nail the last couple of tenths. Let's see if we can get into the 15s. And therein lies the process. So, as I say, any questions, any thoughts? Anyone got any views about the Grand Prix? Spoiler alert. I suspect that tricky corner that we've just been through, turn 3, for me, because this is a mid-engine car and I'm very used to the big front-engine cars, it has a different characteristic. The big front-engine cars, as you roll in on the brakes, obviously you've got all the weight at the front, so it makes the rear lighter. I think that's possibly causing some of the deficiency through there. There we go. Better run off the corner. Front tyre's not ready for that yet. Yeah, because you get a bit of on-throttle rotation with this car that doesn't happen in the same way with the BMW. So it's just a case of becoming used to it. Let's try missing that bump on the way in. Oh, now we're off the road. First time today we're off the road though. Not too shabby. So we need 2/10 to be in the 15s. Means I've got to do everything else as well as I have been. I've got to be better in Moss and I've got to be better in turn 3. But already I've stopped consciously thinking about the crossover with my feet, whether that will be a downfall. Oh, car's loose. Right, let's go. Too wide on the way in, I fancy. Yeah, look at the time go. Seemingly innocuous little slide over the hill. This is why you've got to go to the data. It's half a second. It's a tiny little slide. Yeah, gained a bit off the corner. Like essentially, I'm trying to not waste a lap. If you fluff a corner, it gives you the opportunity to try a different line in another point of the racetrack. There's always, you know, if you're putting in dedicated practice, you should try to be learning something at all times. Logging it in the memory banks. Yeah, see, that's a much better run off that corner. Whole tenths gained off there. But it now changes the rhythm into turn 1. Carrying a few more K's an hour. Oh, that gripped. Nice. Okay. And accept the fact that while you're experimenting, it might not go right all the time, but as I say, little pieces of your own puzzle. There you go, much better run off Moss. Lost a bit through the first part of the lap, but that was a better sector. And my optimal's into the 15s now, so the time is slid too much. Have to compromise the left, which I did not compromise enough. Better. Turning in on the grass is never the fastest way. Car's much more on edge through there. I'm becoming happier with getting it in there. Yeah, it's definitely better by missing that bump on the way in. Yeah, no, here we go. So look, we started off at a 17. My non-perfect pace is a 16.5 now. So that's already loads better. And if I can carry on working on nailing the line and the things that we've learned this morning, there's the potential for me to be lapping at, I don't know, what would we be happy with? 16.25. And if I can do that comfortably and for a stint, that's a massive gain come the end of the race. Yeah, it's tricky, that corner. You can even, I would even suggest that if you blow a lap, like this lap's gone, let's focus on doing a bit of race prep. So, you know, like I've got someone on the inside, let's explore trying to get through this corner, like someone's dived underneath you. So let's explore going in, giving him a car's width, how much grip's on the outside, how much extra do you have to brake to get the car back to the same racing line. I think it's an underexplored area. People hot lap until the cows come home and get on the racetrack and go, oh, I'm on a bit of road I've never used before. I wonder what happens. Better to know what happens. Yeah, that tight line is definitely the one for me. Missed the bump. Yeah, about average. You can see the car turning, turning too much. So you can see the car more on the edge through the corner though, so this is more better. It was sliding too much. There you go, you can see it move there, you can see it move there. We might want that one. You can see the yaw in the race car, so I'm becoming happier with the car moving around. Yeah, okay, it's difficult to see from that view in fairness. And then we don't need to see that. Bad job. So I'm going to have one more run and try and best my time, and then sadly I must shoot off for an appointment. But yeah, there we go. There we have the basics of what I do to begin to learn the nuances of a particular track and car and analyse my own habits. So like if we summarise, I head out and I watched the I didn't watch the full track guide. I watched the dude do the lap from chase view on VRS. I find that handy, just gives me an idea of gears and all of that sort of stuff. Then I go out and do a few laps and try just to drive around at my normal sort of pace, not crash all over the place, get an idea for what's going on. Like I'm in the green on this out lap, outrageous. Do some laps, settle off at a sort of natural pace, examine the data, identify across the whole lap what areas are constant to you as we saw with me, it's the feet crossing over and the entry speed. And then maybe just go and work on that. You have to, you know, it takes a bit of practice to pick your battles. Thank you very much for the follow, appreciate it. And then it's just a case of going through, trying to go faster, but don't worry if you don't instantly go faster. If you can go back to the data after 10 laps, 5 laps out, depending on the track, and you can see that you're doing what you've identified as the problem area better, then, you know, that's a win. Take every little win you can. You're not going to be VRS fast overnight. It will take weeks and months of chipping away at the differences. I'm not going to call them bad habits. I mean, crossing my feet over is a bad habit. There's no two ways about it. It's pushing me into the corner. It's resulted in me constantly braking early because I'm pushing the car into the corner. It's not a driving thing, it's a coordination thing, which is, you know, that sucks, quite frankly, but that's the way it is, so that's what I need to work on. And then I think what happens when you practice a lot is there is a tendency to push too hard. I think once you've identified some areas and done some laps, if you're pushing too much, you've either got to tell yourself you're about to do a race run and like chill out and let the car, oh, that's the grass again, and let the car, we're not saving this, are we? And let the car flow into the turns, just a fraction. What's on my face? I think I've done a bit of research. I think they're called glasses. And like, who knew the world wasn't blurry? Who knew? I just assumed the world was blurry and that HD was getting worse and all of that sort of stuff. But apparently, as you get old, eyes become rubbish. So yeah, as I was saying, don't beat yourself up. If you find yourself consciously, it's hard work. You know, if you're examining data and you're trying to go faster and it's all getting a bit muddled and confused, stop, put something else on, just, you know, go and drive something else around somewhere else. Whatever is your release, come back to it after a couple of hours. You should pick up where you left off. You should be able to pick the pace back up to the sort of natural pace that you were at, and then you can have a go at going again. And like, I'm not going to expect to be VRS pace. I'm not going to expect to be able to drive at VRS pace overnight. It's not happened to date, but what I want to see is my own habits improve. So next time I turn the data on, I want to straight away see that I'm not crossing my feet over, and that those entry speed differences that we saw at the beginning are more similar to the entry speed differences that we saw at the end. So in essence, what I've done is I've moved my pace and my understanding on to the next level, and then from that platform, if that's my normal pace now, I can then chip away. And it's like anything, isn't it? It's like a race. The nearer you get to the front, the harder it is, the more work it takes to get the gains. But if you follow the process and set aside a dedicated time to practice, you'll keep chipping away at it. And if you ever need any help and you're part of IR UK, just DM me. I'm more than happy to chat about this stuff. There we go, much better off the turn, fluffed the rest of the lap, but that's what I mean, 16.3, if I can do that as race pace, I'm significantly quicker than when I started. More confident over the hill. Cars moving around, yeah, see, it's my comfort level has improved in a couple of short hours of practice. Whether that's locked in enough that if I went racing I'd be able to do this with everyone around me, who knows. Look, I'm even in the green coming out of Moss. But these are your measures of improvement. Can you go faster? Can you go faster consistently? Can you do that in a high pressure environment of a race? Oh, I slowed the car down less into there. Yeah, see, look, rolled off the brake a fraction. Oh, and it's a 15.8. We're going to take it. Going to take it as a glorious ending. So I've got an optimal of a 15.859. I've just done a 15.888. Let's watch that lap. Pat ourselves on the back. Pat ourselves on the back. Is that possible? There we go. In 44 laps of a short track, we've gone from a 17 into a 15. Yep, using a bit more road, using all the road. It's not rocket science. It just needs to be worked on methodically and incrementally. Carried good speed through there, did lose a bit through there. Yeah, you can see the car yaw nicely on the way into the corner, so I guess I'm carrying more speed. I will have a quick look through the data just to finish, just to lock in and confirm what we think we know. I still reckon I'm being a bit of a wuss down into the first part of Moss, but missing that curb is definitely helping me through the middle. It still looks slow and awkward. But we were up. I don't know. It's all good. Talk amongst yourselves. Breathe. Have a drink on the straight. Wonder to yourself why anyone would paint a race car these colours. Yeah. Hooked it in nicely for there. Rolled off the brake just that fraction more there, carried the speed out. You can see it's faster from that shot. Right, let's go back. One quick boot charge through the data. Oh, okay, go all the way back then. Does anyone understand how this thing, you know, I swear I don't use it properly, but it gets the job done. Come on. Oh, it also knows when you're talking about it. It's true. Right. Yeah. Quaking in your boots now. I'm in the 15s, aren't you, buddy? So look, we're 0.57 off. And we didn't get through turn one particularly well on that lap. But we know we can do better through there. So we lost a tenth through there. Here we go. This is much better. The problem area, sorry, I've skipped through turn two. Yeah, I'm doing it a bit different to him, but like I'll take a half a tenth for the time being. Yeah, just a different approach. I'm soaring away at the wheel so much less. One of the things people have said to me in the past about VRS data is they'd like to see long runs because they do these one out, you know, flat out laps, and he's working the tyres extremely hard. I would take 0.04 slower through that corner if I could do that consistently with this smoothness of the steering compared to this soaring away at the wheel, because I think that would pay you back at the end of the race. Right, okay, into the problem area. And look, it's been predominantly 15 k's an hour, and look, there is no surprise as we're seeing the braking trace is much more similar. I'm still braking a fraction more, but this is much better. I'm still not crossing over the brake and the throttle. This is a big win. And yeah, it's a tenth. I'm on the throttle earlier, but this is much more similar. I'm more happy with this. I can probably, this little tiny extra bit of braking is probably accounting for me not apexing quite far enough around the corner. But in an hour and a half, we've taken this from over 15 k's an hour deficit all the way into the turn to a small 5k deficit in the mid corner, and the braking trace is much better. As I say, if I can turn back on this afternoon and go back to this almost instantly, I can then move forwards. But if you never start this process, if you never look through the data and work out your habits, and you will see constants, you'll see things you do naturally, you're never going to be able to find the time. Right, here we go. Yeah, look, still being a bit of a wuss on the brakes on the way in, and you can sort of see that in the replay. Again, I may never do exactly this with the trace, but I'm on the throttle a bit harder, and I've got this down from over half a second. I've halved the deficit through Moss. So whilst I still need to work on this, more than happy with that. Still amazing up the straight. And here we go. This was half a second when we started this this stream, and I'm not even worried about the data here. Random press of the clutch apparently, because the flow is better. It's such a flowing section of racetrack. It's been a case of me getting used to how much speed to take into this big right-hander, how far right to keep the car at the top of the hill. As we saw, I needed to reduce my speed through this left-hand part to set up the exit, and now the data trace, what I'm doing with my hands and my feet are slightly different. That's fine, but apart from the odd bit here, I'm still carrying a bit more mid-corner speed to him, but this is fine if I can do this the whole way through. So for me, we've gone from, I know I can do turn one better, I know I can do turn one a whole tenth better, so that would put me down to under half a second. The rest of it is Moss, and then realistically these tiny fractions, these odd half tenths and 3/4 of tenths, that's the hard work. That's the really seriously hard work. You've got a natural ability, a natural level that you operate at, a natural feeling with the race car, and to gain these few extra tenths is massively hard work. But for this morning, I'm super pleased that I've brought down the time. Hopefully I've shown you the process with which I go through, and something that you can take away. And as I say, to summarize, lap, look at the delta, the speed delta, go down and analyze where the delta changes, and you'll be able to pick out what the differences are. There should be, and there probably will be, unless you're really random and all over the place, a load of different traits that you will display. So as we saw, I was crossing over my feet, I'm braking too early, I'm not carrying enough speed into the corners. We've been able to bring all of those things down. I'm not going to make those disappear overnight. That's a comfort level that this guy has over the top of me. But if I can race within half a second of him, I'm way above my current iRating. And if I can then transfer these skills over to the next track, it's Le Mans next week, isn't it? That's where the real improvements start happening. That's where you start clawing yourself up. And if you can drive the car faster and smoother and more on a metronomic line, more in a rhythm, you can devote more brain power to the race, you can look further up the road, you can avoid more accidents, you can not be the guy involved in the crash, you can be the guy skillfully sliding through the middle of the accident, because the rest of it has been worked on privately in your own time, automatically. As I say, if you mess a lap up, take an opportunity to imagine there's a car on your outside or a car on your inside, and dive around the inside of the corner, practice being offline, practice holding the car all the way through the corner, imagining there's somebody on the outside of you. It'll pay you back in the race, and it's all stuff, it's all puzzle pieces towards your own bigger picture. So anyway, I really do have to shoot. I hope people have got something from it. If people would like to, happy enough to give me a follow, I really appreciate that. If you want to see different cars, I'm doing this for the GT3s. I'm happy to jump in different GT3s. Happy to do F3, Skippy, whatever. The process is the same. The data will be different for each car. The problems will be different for each car. But once you've learnt the process and what works for you, you can head off and you can make yourself faster in anything. And basically all these cars are the same. They require the same loading and unloading of the weight onto and off of the tyres at strategic points with a set amount of steering angle to make the car grip but not slip too much. It's a dance, it's a balance. But once you find that, you can jump in and out of pretty much anything and go have at it. Anyway, excellent. It's been a blast. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.